everybody's dressed in black and they had helmets. You can't see their faces. They're like faceless shock troops.
Clearly the good guys.
They're right. Clearly the good guys. Hey, Internet. It's Paul. It's Matt. The Dork Lords. We are here talking about Legion, Season 3, Episode 2, Chapter 21.
Yes.
All right, so...
I feel like you can all be summed up this whole episode
very good.
As solidifying the reasons why David Haller is doing what he wants, doing what he's going to do, his whole mission. And that's why at the beginning of it, you see him and his girlfriend or ex, Sid, off, sort of contemplating what's going on
their own worlds.
Yes, and it ends with Carrie saying he's going to save the world.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that's his objective. That's David's objective, to save everything.
So how do you think he's going to go about that? Obviously, time travel's involved.
Yeah.
He's going to go back. He's going to save the world from himself.
Well, presumably, he doesn't want it to get so bad, right? When he talks about stopping the incursion by Farouk into his life as a child, keeping that from happening, but then they, part of the episode where you see, and they're probably tipping their hand perhaps, or getting you ready for the fact that Sid doesn't think that's a great idea. He thinks it's a trick.
Right. Well, so yeah, all right, we'll jump into that. We'll do a little recap here in a sec, but to your point, we learned last episode, when Switch, our time traveler, asks David, oh, what are you trying to do? What do you need a time traveler for? And he's like, oh, go back. I was like, oh, you want to get your girl back? And he's like, no, I thought about it, but no, that's not what I want. Well, in this one, that's kind of what he's suggesting he wants in that moment, at least. Like, look, if I went back in time before I did that horrible thing to you, see, then it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And Sid's point is, well, you're still that same person, but actually it's worse now because you would then have known you did that to me. You've erased it from my memory, so I don't know you did it. Yeah. It's basically you're just doing the same thing over again.
Yeah.
You're the same person. So I feel like he's trying to go back further than that. And we know he's going to go back further in time.
Because he talked about
see his death. He also mentioned something about we could get rid of the haunted house, I think is what he says, which goes back to when he was a kid.
Yes.
That's early.
Yeah.
So and we do see in the trailer for next episode, we see the young Professor X. Now, he's not talking
I didn't
to
watch those
David.
Scenes, so.
What we see is, it's actually interesting. I mean, okay, we're leaving all over the place here, but just
Yes,
like
right.
the show. So the trailer for the next episode shows...
Which is strange, for strange sake.
Now, we were both accused, I think he was accused more than me. No, we were both accused of not having fun in our real lives, and we're just grumpy old get off my
That's
lawn.
right. I don't want anybody to have fun.
That's pretty true.
It is,
frankly,
that's right.
Well done,
I hate
WMS.
people on my lawn. I don't have one, but if I did, I wouldn't want you.
You called us out.
Yes.
Fun.
Bah humbug.
I will say something I enjoyed because it was just fun and I think had nothing to do with anything other than just being there for fun.
Yes.
Was Carrie with a C doing the little walk behind the woman bringing him food.
Oh.
When he's creeping around.
Oh, yes.
There was nothing really.
It was very
glad about that. It was just
very
silly.
Harpo Marxian.
Yeah. So it was fun, and I enjoyed it on that level.
Marxian, I guess.
Thus showing I have fun in real life.
Yes, there you go. That was your fun. Was that your allotment?
No, there was a lot of
for
cool.
The year?
Yes. So we'll talk more about that in terms of the physicality of this episode and also how it plays into that. What's been a constant theme of music and dance as part of this thing, and you don't necessarily. It's been one of the cool thematic tricks it's pulled off.
Cool, but not fun.
You don't necessarily associate superhero shows with dance.
No.
And this show has done that, and it's found a way to incorporate them. So
unless you're Dazzler.
Yeah, right. Good point. Who's not in the show?
No.
No. So
Mutant though.
So this trailer for next week shows young Professor X, I believe, talking with probably young Gabrielle Haller.
Ah.
And there's a little. I think the baby's already been born, and he's saying, "Oh, but what if he's got, what if he's a mutant essentially? What if he's got my powers?" And he's worrying about it. So I'm trying to think what that timeline is, because what we saw when we saw the little shot of his wheelchair back in season 1 or something like that.
Yes.
The idea was he was giving baby Legion off to a family.
Ah.
The Haulers, I assume. In the comics, it's Gabrielle Haller is the actual biological mom.
Ah.
But he didn't know, like, they had an affair, he left, she didn't tell him, oh, by the way, I had a kid. So that's a difference from the comics. And I just wonder, how this manifests itself. Because if that is Gabrielle Haller, then maybe they get a divorce and he gives the kid. I don't know how, like, in other words, if she's his biological mom and his adopted mom, I'm just wondering how that whole process
You're
works
still
out.
thinking that maybe she is his actual biological mom?
Maybe? I don't know.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. So anyway, if you guys out there have some idea of what the timeline of events is for who David's biological parents are, we obviously know Professor X is one of them.
Me too.
And then how that transition happens to he ends up with the Haulers, who also there's a dad, there's a stepdad, I guess, because remember he takes him out into the countryside. He's an astronomer. Like looks at the stars.
That's right.
So anyway, I'm a little unclear as to how that all works out, but we'll find out more about it obviously next week.
Yes.
I am excited to see an adult David talking with a young adult Professor X.
Sure.
I think that'll be really interesting.
Yeah.
When and if that happens. When that happens. Okay, so all right, taking it back. We pick up kind of right where we left off with it was D3's third attempt at taking out David, and right before they're about to do it, poof, the whole house and the foundations disappear.
Yep.
We had wondered last week, was that a David thing? Was that a Switch thing? It's definitely a David thing.
Definitely David thing.
And in fact, I'd asked the question last week: Does Switch's powers allow her to take other people with her?
Yeah,
and it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. I think I wasn't paying enough attention in the previous episode. The point where she tells him to come with him, but then he gets shot.
Yeah. Oops. So she was thinking of maybe she could, I guess.
Right, at that point, I think she did. Because, obviously she didn't know in this, episode.
Yeah. So David is excited about her use of power, so he's like, hey, show me. She does. She draws a little door, and she goes through it, and he can't. She tries to pull him through.
Yeah.
Can't do it. He's repelled from going into the time corridor. He's obviously very upset about that. So his idea is, hey, let's kidnap Carrie with a C.
Yes.
He's the tech guy. He'll be able to magnify your powers so that I can then also go with you back. And now we know forward in time.
Yes.
That's important too, I think.
Yeah, that might be some sort of Chekhov's gun thing.
Yeah, she can go to the future. Like, oh, okie doke then.
I wonder if it's going to be like she does the act, right? Helps David do the thing that he wants to do, and then maybe she goes in the future to see if that's the right decision.
That's true. That's a good point.
And then it's like, no, of course not. And then David dies, and that's the end of the show.
Or, it also depends on what you. Again, how we think of David. Is David the villain to be defeated? I just don't. If he's the villain to be defeated, there's plenty of ways that Switch could screw him over.
Sure.
She could trap him in the hallway.
Yes.
Whatever. She could do a lot of things. Trap him in the distant past. So I just, the show is kind of not letting us off the hook with, like, is he the villain to be thwarted? Is he?
No.
So I feel like if there is a downfall for David coming, Switch is part of that downfall.
Perhaps.
Maybe even the fact that her name is Switch. And she switches sides, perhaps.
Right. Maybe she has Switchblade.
She has a switchblade. Yeah, yeah. So
Maybe she is in a movie called Switch.
yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. Freaky Friday. I think is what she's in. She and Judge Reinhold switch places. Okay, so they have D3 has captured Squirrel. Squirrel was the alchemist guy with the goggles, who was like guarding the house, and they're interrogating him for the location of where David's jumped to. It's Clark is doing the interrogating. Then at some point he ejects him from the plane. It's in a seemingly very, very cruel. I'm going to kill you by dropping you out of a plane moment.
Yeah, it didn't seem like they were completely ready for that to happen.
Yeah,
Like,
and then,
he's gonna live. Oh,
so they, they've worked out a parachute system, and so and then they've tracked him. They put a tracker on him so they can try to track him back to his. To David.
Yeah, they'd like to get David, but they're willing to settle for Lenny.
But here's the other part too. So, obviously, season 1, D3 were certainly the villains.
Sure.
They were trying to kill everyone that they could
were.
find.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not sure what they are, but
Sure.
I guess they're the good guys-ish. Right. I mean, that's maybe part of the point of this thing is there's no good guys. But
Maybe.
they're willing to, like, for instance, I think it was last episode where they're like, "Oh, we got to kill David. Oh, but he's got this time traveler. Well, we'll kill her too."
Yeah.
So there's I get the idea that they think, "Oh, we're stopping the apocalypse.
Yep.
So whatever we do is justified." Yep. And so in this moment, here's Squirrel. Squirrel has done nothing. Really, to almost anybody.
No, he's nothing to.
So they interrogate him, then drop him out of a plane. They're like, "Oh, well, we gave him a parachute at the last second, so he didn't die."
Right.
But you don't drop people out of planes with no like. He, for about 4 minutes or so, he thought, "I'm dead."
Yes, that's
You've
what he
just
thought.
caused permanent trauma to me for the simple fact of, like, I didn't know what I sang jump, jump.
Yes. Daddy make you.
He seemed to be pushing the fact that he should be let go.
Yes.
Drop. I don't know.
So they gave him what he wanted.
They gave him what he wanted. So anyway, I'm just saying D3, and they've got, the big, like, everybody's dressed in black, and they've got helmets. You can't see their faces. They're like faceless shock troops.
Clearly the good guys.
They're right. Clearly the good guys. So yeah, and obviously I'm still harping on the fact that I don't understand Farouk's connection. I mean, he was a horrible individual, horrible entity for many episodes.
Yes.
And now it seems like he's willing to play with the team. I'm not buying it.
No.
Like, for instance, when he suggests to Sid, like, "Hey, you know how we get to David?
Yes.
If you come on to him, pretend to love him again, it'd be great." She's like, "Oh," he's like, "Oh, I can teach you how to be emotionally manipulative, and you can lie to him.
Mine.
Stab him in the back, and he won't even know it."
Yes.
Okay. But he seems like in a past version of Farouk, you would think he would have just been like, "Just do what I say." Like, weep. Okay, great. Now you're doing what I say. Like, he seems very willing to take advice or, like, play along and be part of this unit, which I'm just not buying. That doesn't seem to be his MO from.
You think they're trying to fool you by having David affect someone's mind at the drop of a hat,
which he does with Lenny's like, "You're happy and hungry," and she's like, "I'm happy and hungry."
Yep. And even though part of he didn't initially seem to be at the start of it, clearly he was the one at the end of Carrie's seduction. He's still doing people.
Yeah, that bit where we see the dance, another fun dance moment where Carrie with a C pulls Carrie with a K out of the mirror, and they've swapped their clothes and they don't know who to lead. I think it's indicative of the fact that Carrie with a C is now kind of becoming under the control of David. And so at the end of that dance, when Carrie with a K spins out of frame, when it comes back, it's David. He's like, "I'll lead." And you're like, "Okay." So it's a little, the metaphor of David is now in control of Carrie's brain. He also makes him inhale the drug.
Yes.
As well. So,
yes.
He's drug-induced control.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're pointing out that that's a difference.
And also
They're showing
too,
Farouk
I mean,
versus David.
he attempted, and that was the the important part really, where they're really trying to be clear about his relationship with Sid now, where he uses his powers to communicate with her, even though they're in separate areas, obviously.
Yeah, he kind of force ghosts himself, force projects himself to chat with her.
Well, it's like I'm wondering if she was making herself open to it, because at first he's saying, "What are you doing, David?" And so either A, she was noticing that he was doing something, or he was sort of trying to communicate with her, and because I feel like he's like, "Oh, I didn't want to scare you," or whatever, and so she was saying.
Well, he
that she's
says,
not
"Lenny
scared.
told me not to bother, but I decided to do this."
Right, because he attempted to tell her his plan, and then that's when they discussed the fact that, yes, I can just go back before this even happened, but you'll be the same person.
Right.
Like, I kind of feel like, I've been very interested in time travel for a long time, and I feel like an ethical way to do that would be to go back in time before he's done anything, meet Sid, but be honest with her. You should be careful. I was bad to you. I did these terrible things, but I'm trying to make it right. And so it's not, then it wouldn't be like, oh, okay, well, I'm doing terrible things, but I don't want you to know. It's like, no, I'm trying to make it right, and I'm trying to do right. Because she's right to be suspicious and angry at him for what he's done.
And she has this knowledge, as we kind of somewhat take it on face value, but this knowledge that the future is this apocalypse that he causes.
Right. I mean, he does plead. He says, like, oh, then let me go. Let me be by myself.
Right. Hey, I'm not hurting anybody.
Forgive me. But no,
you're
you're going to destroy the world. Now, that's the thing that probably would be good to revisit in a way, to see if that's really true, is what's happening, or is it because of people trying to stop him? The reason
See, I think
why.
that's the thing, the series of events. For instance, even in that moment, when he gets angry at the fact that he can't resolve the situation, the blue drug that he's been giving everybody of his followers becomes red, and they turn violent.
Right.
And you get the idea that, hey, if that went mass-produced, or if that went to everybody, that you'd have this like series of, savage people going savage on each other.
Now, just think about this. At the end of the series, he attempts to go back, and it fails, and then he's dead. It's like, oh, he was going to destroy the world, but we were able to stop him.
Or more to the point,
end of show.
He succeeds and he's dead, because in the fact that he stops himself from being born, perhaps.
Oh, yes, that'd be fine too. But I mean, I'm just saying though, what would the show be?
So he goes back in time. Describe your scenario. So he goes back in time where, to like the fight between Farouk and Professor X, perhaps?
Yeah, at whatever point he's thinking about, and he tries to do it right, and then it still leads to the whatever events are happening that are going to end the world or whatever, and then they kill him. Right?
Who's they?
Oh, well,
D3,
Sid and D3,
Okay. Right.
I mean, right, that's like that's what they're trying to do. That's what they think.
I see what you're saying. You're saying they kill him even though there is no apocalypse coming. They still think the apocalypse is coming, so they're like, we got to kill the guys.
What I'm suggesting is that if he really is the bad guy, then apocalypse is coming. So if he really is the bad guy at the end of the show,
sure,
he has to die. That's the way the show should end.
I see what you're saying.
So it's possible that that's where they're going.
So he either has to die or have a change of heart. I mean, to the point that he's really, really changed.
I mean, but that's the question that I'm asking, though. Is the purpose of the end of this show is that David has to die? Yeah. Now, he could feel like, wow, whatever is going to happen, I am going to destroy the world, so I should keep myself from being born, or make it my birth results in me not having any powers, or
my birth doesn't have me have this parasite on me. I mean, that's
what he's trying to go for.
Right.
And if you're thinking that if he succeeds and that does keep the end of the world from happening, that'd be obviously the best for David.
But I agree. I think you're implying that that's not really the problem.
Not a problem. I'm just saying that.
And I agree with your thought that I think the show is trying to tell us that, we get this even in this episode. Sid's like, he keeps calling himself the victim.
Yep.
That David sees himself as a victim of a lot of stuff, but
Right.
one of those things being this parasite in his
Right.
head, when really, yes, he's had these setbacks, but he's actually also a flawed individual.
Yes.
And that even without those things, he might have ended up in the exact same place that he's in.
It's possible. I don't know what the show is trying to say. So it'd be interesting. I mean, I feel like you were saying, in that the person that we thought was the bad guy, and he was the bad guy. I don't feel like he was, like knew that the world was going to end because of David Haller. It's like he's like, oh, this guy's powerful. I want his power.
He being Farouk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he'd done that to people before. If he wanted to say, like, I'm doing this
Farouk is
because
certainly
all
evil.
these people were a danger. No one was like David before. He was just taking all their powers before. So, it's their danger, not danger, but it's like it becomes a question if they're really trying to.
If they stop David, Farouk could easily be almost as destructive, cause his own apocalypse if he wanted.
Yeah.
And actually, that brings up a point. We see that what David seems to be crying out for, and his little mantra, that is that thing of like, I'm a good person, I deserve love.
Yes.
I'm a good person, I deserve
Yes.
love. All the people that he gathers around and drugs out his cult, he's like, all they have to do is love me because
Right.
I need love.
Right.
And it reminded me of last season. There's a conversation where Farouk has with David, in which Farouk says something. I'm going to paraphrase here, but something in the line of, "Yeah, all your powers, you can't make someone love you."
Right.
And David's like, "How do you know?" He's like, "Well, I tried." It's like, with who? You. Like, Farouk tried to basically be the parent for David.
Right.
And he does call him a lot of times, like, like mon enfant or whatever. Like, he uses like these terms for like baby or my child. Or I feel like there is a father-son bond, at least from Farouk's side,
Right.
with David, that he's, in some weird, horribly fractured way sees himself as David's father. And so I think that's also lends into the idea that he doesn't actually want to kill David. That I'm not sure what his ultimate goal is.
Right.
I would have thought it would just be amass power. But I feel like whatever it is, maybe it's a Star Wars.
Right.
We will rule the galaxy as father and son. Anyway, it's interesting that David is searching for love, and it causes some really horrible choices on his part.
Right.
And Farouk perhaps is also looking for love in a weird way, and has made him make these odd choices as well. I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to. I'm putting themes where there aren't themes.
Yeah, you are.
Just to try to do it. That's what I do.
That's fun.
It's all in his head. Okay. All right. Just back to the plot at hand. Squirrel is jettisoned. He gets picked up by Lenny in the mystery van. But and of course D3's like, aha, our plan's working.
Yes.
But it's not.
No, it's a
because David and Lenny have figured out, like, yeah, we know what's going on.
Yep.
This guy was captured, and they're gonna let him go. Okay. So Lenny takes him out into the woods. There's a Mad Hatter, kind of another Alice in Wonderland callback.
Sure.
They've done a few of those over the course of this series, appropriately so. Yeah. And hey, what did you tell him, basically? D3 moves in, but then we find out the whole thing has been a diversion to get D3 out into the woods. And I think, I could be wrong on this, but I think that part of the plan is also to get the two Carries separated. So that Carrie with a K is out, like dropping nets on the minions.
Wow.
And then they capture Carrie with a C so that they don't have Carrie with a K come out and start hacking everybody. Right. It's like, it's better just get Carrie with a C. So they kidnap Carrie, and that's what that leads to them mind controlling him, and now he's all on board for creating something that'll magnify Switch's ability so that multiple people, David, can go with Switch into the past or future.
Right.
Those are I think the main plot beats. But yeah, that conversation with Sid is obviously, I think, kind of the emotional highlight of this particular episode. Yeah. David shows up in his little ghost form, has this conversation. He's still trying to, rationalize his actions to her. Yeah. She's having none of it.
No.
And it makes him angry. It is interesting to note mean, I had to actually go back and it's like, am I right about this? Because Sid in her early life, she sexually assaulted someone as well. If you remember, her first sexual experience was when she switched bodies with her mom.
Oh yeah.
And then had sex with her mom's boyfriend.
Right.
And then the boyfriend gets put in jail because when the mom sees like, "What? You had sex with my daughter? You're horrible." And so, her first experience was a non-consensual.
Sure.
It's just an interesting parallel between the two.
Sure.
She probably would like that ability to time travel as well, perhaps. Go back and maybe change what
that.
she did.
Yeah. Well, she certainly has regrets about it.
Yeah.
It's interesting seeing David in this season after how we saw him in the first season. And that's why it makes me wonder the extent to which he can be redeemed. Because he's still wrestling literally with different elements of himself.
Right. We do see now that those fractured personalities are arguing with each other,
yes.
which is similar, at least a little spark of the comic book version of him, where he's got these different personalities, each with different powers. But they're not really exploring that just yet. But he does have, you're right, personalities that are arguing with each other. Yeah.
So, it becomes a question. I mean, it's certainly possible that he will succeed in his plan to stop Farouk from, infesting him when he was a child. And then we'll see what happens, as a result of
maybe the big reveal is that it ends up being the same. Like he goes back in the past, changes it. Oh, look, I'll be free of Farouk. Then he goes back to the present, and it's like, oh, I'm the same guy, son of a bitch. And it's like that acknowledgement. It's finally a reflection to him that he isn't the victim.
Right.
That he's kind of the author of his own problems. Perhaps that might be interesting. I don't know. I just did a fanfic of Legion. I don't know. If you've got some ideas for how this show ends, we've only got 6 more episodes. There's 8 episodes total.
Yeah.
And this thing is going to end, and I think you very well might see some a dead David Haller at the end of this, either in a self-sacrificing way or he turns way to the dark side and has to be defeated kind of way.
Right.
There's a lot of unknowns about Switch at this point.
Yes.
Her willingness to join up with him, her willingness to stay with him.
Right.
The fact that she's listening to all of these time travel tips that are recorded.
Yes.
It just feels like maybe she's been doing more time traveling and we just aren't. You know what I mean? Maybe she knows more than she's letting on.
Oh.
As opposed to just being like, I just showed up one day and decided to help you out. I mean, she seems very committed to his cause.
She does.
I don't know. I just think there's more to that backstory that will be informative of why she's helping out.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if it's David Haller having a greater influence on that than initially it seems, or Farouk, but it doesn't seem like he was aware of her in a significant way.
Right.
Although he said he was involved with time travel before.
He did.
And they're always women.
Yeah, and so maybe it's always the same woman. Maybe it's been this woman every time. That she's just older because it's farther in time. I don't know. She's like, I know you. I don't know. She didn't really do that.
No, she didn't do that. Well, if it's further in time.
Oh, that's true. She would be like, oh, yeah, I know who you are.
Later.
Later, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Her future is Farouk's past.
Correct. Perhaps. And I do think it's her tooth that's left behind. There's that thing,
right.
I'm not 100% sure on that, but when Sid's looking at his tooth, they show it again. And that suggests to me that there's this physical cost for her to time travel. I don't know where that's leading, but that could be a thing. I don't know. If she loses her humanity or something, she becomes the demon. I don't know. If you've got some thoughts on Switch's role in the last 6 episodes here, let us know that.
Yes.
You think we've wrapped it up, sir?
I think we have. I think
All right.
Wrapped up.
Thank you, everybody. Charlie Brown references. There was a Charlie Brown song, and then they did O Tannenbaum.
Yes. From the first.
So I assume they're comparing David Haller to or Charlie Brown, perhaps like a lovable loser.
Um,
He's got the big round head, which was what Shadow King had back in the day. In the
weirdness
first
for
season.
weirdness sake.
There's going to be a scene where Sid's got a football. And then he's going like, whoop! Ah! Okay.
I think more likely Lenny.
Yeah, good one. Okay. Now, Lenny is also, I mean, I know we're wrapping up and then I keep coming back to things, but Lenny also, that's an interesting, she's got problems with Switch.
Yes.
She's got, there's a hierarchy. She's worried about losing her place, her value to David.
Yes.
I could see that being exploited by somebody like Farouk or something, where she ends up turning, becoming the Judas,
perhaps,
in the cult,
or doing harm to Switch.
Yeah, good point. So, all right. Anyway, we'll be back for episode 3. I've also got my ticket for Spider-Man: Far From Home tomorrow night.
Ooh.
I'll be checking that out, and maybe if you see it over the 4th of July holiday, we can talk about that too.
Yes.
So we'll be back. Thanks, everybody. Bye.